What's up, everyone? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking all things Deion Sanders, Caleb Williams, Georgia, and more college football storylines, plus picks from the full Sunday slate of NFL games with our friend, you know him, you love him, Stuckey from Kentucky, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation from Action Network. Stuckey, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everything's going well. First day of online betting here with apps. So it's an exciting day in sports betting history here.
Yes, sports betting is officially live in Kentucky as of 6 a.m. Eastern today, Thursday, right in your backyard. I think because I was in California, I was still betting in California, offshore books, had different runners. I don't know if that's legal and things like that. But when I moved to New York and it finally became legalized, I just had so much fun signing up for all the books, getting all of the bonus money. Are you just doing that right now? Just getting all the bonuses you can?
Yeah. My wife is wife, because I mean, my family's from Pennsylvania, and when I go up to my office up in New York, I was able to sign up already under my name on all of them. And I will say, yes, it is very fun. The bonuses used to be a lot better than they are with new states. I think books were like, oh, hey, I think we were probably a little bit too generous with some of the free giveaways. I remember there was one in New York where it was like a $3,000 free bet, put $3,000 in an account, bet something, it hit. And I expected just like you from betting like offshores my whole life, I would have to like roll over and I would have to bet a certain. The next day, I just took it and deposited it in my bank, and I was like, "Wait, what? How did this just happen?"
Right. The same thing happened to me in New York. I was like, I thought I would have to bet it, for a certain amount of time or whatever it was, and I was like, "Oh my!" Now I didn't cash it out, but you could have.
Yeah. So no, it's definitely an exciting time if you're a new bettor or just haven't opened any accounts, because there's definitely still some good offers, and everyone should take advantage of them. It's free money, and then you have a couple different other options that you can shop around for. So yeah, it's about time it has hit Kentucky, because betting's legal in every other state around us.
Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations, Kentucky. And Caesars, our sponsor, is in Kentucky. Download the Caesar Sports app and place your very first bet today. All right, Stuckey, the last time I had you on the show, we talked a lot of college football. It was nearing the end, the bowl games and the national championship. The biggest storyline this year has to be Deion Sanders. He led Colorado. Will he lead Colorado, I guess, into the college playoffs? I've seen your tweets. You have not been drinking the Kool-Aid, the Deion Sanders Kool-Aid, at least in terms of betting. I think we can both agree what he's done for college football. I was never someone that watched a lot of college football. I'm tuned in now every Saturday, at least for the Colorado game, which leads me into watching other games. Is what he's doing, for college football, for the sport, important? And do you think that this team eventually will be maybe someone contending for a playoff season?
Yeah, I love what Deion is doing, and I think it's great for the sport. I also think it's great for the sport when Colorado is good. They used to be really good, and there's a lot of tradition there. In the past couple of years, I mean, they were the worst Power 5 team, and they were horrendous. So what he's done and when you say I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm just taking when I'm looking at it from where I power rate them, they're, around an average team overall. That is a significant, it's like 2 touchdowns better than where I had them last year. All just with the transfer portal, how you can just rebuild a team in one offseason. I love this, the hires on his staff. And so this program's headed in the right direction. The only thing I would say, though, is how long is he there for? If he's there for a while, yes, I think that Colorado could become a contender, because of all of his attention, he's only going to keep getting stronger recruiting classes, stronger transfer additions, and that roster is going to start to, like, you have. It's kind of like a stars and scrubs lineup, and it's not that deep right now. So if you have like an injury to Travis Hunter, the next stop's not that great. The offensive line, they need to get actual like dudes in there. It's like a lot of Kent State transfers, and the defense is still a work in progress. So if he's able to stay there, I mean, who doesn't want to go play there with, every game has been like this big party and event. That's going to feed into not only the fans, but players that want to go play for him. My only doubt would be if, he ends up, there's already talk of him. Will he get an
Going to
NFL
the
job?
NFL.
So once his son leaves, does he end up
Coaching
taking
his
a
son in
bigger
the
bag
NFL.
somewhere else or going to the NFL? Yeah. But yeah, I think it's great for the sport and all the attention that Colorado has gotten. I'm all for it.
It's also just so interesting, Deion was tweeting out or on his Instagram stories the other day about how Black viewership is up too, in watching college football, which is so important, and going to the games and having interest in it, which I think is amazing.
Yep.
But there's some debate right now about, is he a good coach or is he just good at recruiting and a good motivator? Do you think that Deion Sanders would be a good NFL coach, or is it all kind of motivating young minds, having them believe in themselves, and then being a recruiting monster? Does that translate to the NFL, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's some translation. I mean, you look at, for example, like I think, two of the most important aspects of being a head coach are motivation.
Yep.
And, like you go look at the Steelers, for example. Mike Tomlin is not known for like his brilliant X's and O's, but he can fire up a team, us against the world, right? And the Steelers have been so successful in his tenure as an underdog. Whenever they're going up against someone on paper that's better than them, they've covered more than any other team in the league. And that's just that mentality, us against the world. You can still fire up guys, adults that are in the league. And then I think another really important trait is being able to assemble a really good staff, right? You're basically the CEO of a team and you're delegating responsibilities. And I really love the hire of Sean Lewis, the offensive coordinator from Kent State, ran a very modern up-tempo offense. The defensive coordinator doesn't have a ton to work with, but I really like that hire as well. So I think that he's, from the motivation aspect, he's been great. And then he's in his first, real shot at the FBS level. I think he put together a really good staff. Both of those things translate really well into the NFL because basically you're just delegating and then you're trying to motivate and keep everything at bay. So yeah, we'll see on like TBD on his, some of like the more analytical based decisions, right? Like the clock management. We just haven't seen a lot, a big sample size there, but I think he does have some traits that translate to any level.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin is such a good comp there. All right, first 3 games, everyone was surprised by Colorado that they got eaten alive by Oregon, and now they're going up against Caleb Williams, number 8 ranked USC. What do you expect in this game? Anything that you like? I mean, obviously, I know you're not taking Colorado.
I actually would take. I haven't bet this game. I would, if over 3 touchdowns, I would probably take Colorado or nothing.
Yeah.
And look, USC is going to score.
Yeah.
And they're going to score a lot. This Colorado defense, especially without Hunter, is just very vulnerable. It is what it is. Even in the first game, like Colorado, another thing worth pointing out is in that first game, they benefited from the fact that TCU had no idea what to expect, right? It's just a brand new cast of characters, brand new staff. Like, how do we prepare for this, right? So that surprise shock factor worked in their favor. But even in that game, right, TCU still put up a lot of points. The one reason why I would, like Colorado here to potentially keep this within the number is USC's defense is still bad. It's just not. Oregon has a much better overall defense. We even saw it last week with USC laying 35 against an Arizona State team that the week before used 4 quarterbacks, had 8 turnovers, and was shut out for the first time since 1988. It was one of the worst offensive performances I've seen in years. And
worse than the Broncos?
Well, college level, not yet. Broncos excluded. But and that game was like, I think 35-28 late in the third quarter.
Right.
That inept Arizona State offense suddenly woke up against USC. So, like Colorado, they can't really run the ball. Their defense has holes, but Shedeur Sanders is playing so well. And he's able to create so many. And USC doesn't have they just don't have the same chops as Oregon on defense. And, this will be at home. So I think this will be a high scoring game. And Colorado, I think, can stay within the number. I think USC will win, but over 3 touchdowns, I think the look is Colorado or nothing. And then look, even if they're down 28 late,
Yeah.
and that's a blowout. You could
Yeah.
still score
Garbage
a late
time.
touchdown and
Yep.
sneak in the back door.
Yeah, to your point too, and TCU, and I know you were high on TCU last year, going at least getting into the championship game. They were surprised and nobody knew. And now I think because of the media hype and because, College Game Day and Fox and I mean, the entire media world had descended on Colorado. The Colorado game now has become like the game that teams want to win. And you look at the way that Oregon showed no mercy at all. And you got to think that other teams are going to respond that way. But to your point, USC's defense is a little bit suspect. You brought up Shedeur Sanders. His name is now in the Heisman watch. Obviously, Caleb Williams has been in the Heisman watch for a long time. Who's your favorite, at this point in the season?
Yeah, and by the way, just to add on to your point, before I get to that question, when you said like it's been the game, the event, one thing, look, with Deion making a big spectacle of every game, I think that's great for bringing attention to his program in the sport, but it could work against them in certain spots. This might have worked against them last week because these kids, you're getting so up, right, for every game, and they've played, like, even the Colorado State game ends up being a close game, and that's your in-state rival. The Nebraska game, it's like, Fox, it's the big noon game on Fox. Every week has been just this exhausting build-up, and that can wear on you. Whereas, a lot of these, like Oregon, they had a week where they, won like 81-0 against Portland State. Like, how much energy are you really exerting? So, that could, I think it's a good thing in his first year to bring attention to the program, but it could actually work against them just as far as the exhaustion factor.
And that kid with the hit on Travis Hunter was just dirty. I don't think there's any way to look at it. And you get these kids that hyped up that they want to injure, people like Shedeur or like Travis Hunter. And I agree with you. It can work against you. And I think we've seen that last week.
Yeah. As far as the Heisman, I think that it's actually really ironic. We're talking about all these Pac-12 teams. The Pac-12, in my opinion, is the deepest conference in college football, and it's on its last leg. But it's great. Like, this is one of my favorite college football years. We'll see how it plays out. But as it stands right now, this is, I think, going to be one of my favorite college football seasons because it is so wide open. I don't think that there's one or two clear elite teams that are, a touchdown better than the second tier of, your teams that are power rated third, fourth, fifth. There's 1 through 15. They're not that far apart, and it's very wide open. And we have such a geographical spread of all of these teams. You got some of the Big Ten at the top of the Big Ten. You obviously got the South with your SEC, Florida State, Miami, like they're back to being relevant. And then you have all the Pac-12 and the West Coast. So this is setting up to be a really good year. And I think, the Pac-12 quarterbacks, that you have to start there for the Heisman conversation. And I think in a lot of markets, Michael Penix has overtaken the lead as far as the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. I think that's probably correct. He has played out of his mind. That offense is rolling. They have weapons for days. There's a world actually where Puka Nacua, who's
I love him,
leads the NFL in reception. There's a world where he could be on Washington's team this year if he didn't transfer and still use the year of eligibility. Who knows what their offense will look at. But they have weapons for days. They're so well coached under DeBoer, and Penix is just playing out of his mind. The numbers he's putting up are silly. So I think he's the favorite. Now, Washington, I think, plays at USC. So that probably gives a little edge to Caleb. And then, if whoever wins that game, you're probably going to come out of that as the favorite. So I think as of right now, Penix is the deserved favorite. And if I had to guess, it's going to come down to who, comes out victorious in that game.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting when you say too about how wide open college football feels this year. I felt like it started to get that way in college basketball last year. It felt a little bit more wide open. It wasn't just the blue bloods being shoved down your throat. So it's kind of trickled now into college football, which again, to your point, I think makes everything more fun when it's not just like Alabama, Alabama. Any big action you've got on the CFB slate this weekend?
I like Ole Miss. I think you can find a 3 out there. If not, I would wait. I think a 3 will come back. Catching 3 at home against LSU. Look, LSU, this will be a shootout. It could be last team with the ball wins, but I make Ole Miss a small favor here, so happy to take a field goal. The LSU defense is broken. I mean, they're outside the top 100 in success rate. They're bottom 5 in the country in defensive explosiveness allowed. So like it's bad. They're outside the top 100 in many metrics. You saw Florida State go nuts against them. You saw Arkansas, which isn't the most explosive offense in the world, kind of go off against them. Like this defense has problems in the secondary and really across the board. It's a brand new secondary. That was the concern. It has not lived up to expectations. And then Ole Miss at home, I expect them to bounce back. Look, they ran into a buzzsaw last week. Alabama really off back-to-back embarrassing performances. The game at South Florida is almost more embarrassing than a loss. A game 6-3 at South Florida. I don't think I've ever seen Alabama play like that. They're at home playing for their season. And this Ole Miss offense has been okay, but not great for a Lane Kiffin offense. But they've basically been playing without 3 of their most important weapons. Zachary Franklin, their tight end, Prescorn, and Trey Harris. They were all doubtful last week. They played like a couple snaps, limited, but are practicing this week. So I think they'll all be back. Quinshon Judkins, their star running back, he's been hurt, dealing with an injury. Based on his comments this week, he said he's now finally back to 100%. So this is like the real Ole Miss offense in a good bounce back spot, playing a defense that rates outside the top 100 across the board. They're giving up a ton of explosive plays, which Ole Miss top 10 still, even with those injuries in that department. So I think Ole Miss is going to win, but happy to take the 3 points there.
All right, I love it. I might tell you on those. We are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk Sunday NFL slate. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, here with Stuckey of Action Network, previewing Week 4's Sunday slate of the NFL season. We don't have time to go through every single matchup, so we've got some curated picks here. And Stuckey, I got to say, when I looked at the rundown this morning, I was very pleased that we are on the same side for our spread bets. We both like the Browns and the Bills to cover. Why do you like the Browns?
Yeah, this Browns team, this will be the 3rd time that I've bet them this year. Coming into the year, I bet them to win the division. I bet their win total over. I was very high on this team, mainly because of the defense.
Yeah.
Last year, this defense had so many just basic communication issues on the back end, blown assignments. There was, in the locker room, they'd say, like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're practicing. So just bringing in a new defense coordinator right there, that's going to solve the low-hanging fruit. And you brought in a good one in Jim Schwartz. They bulked up their interior to fix their run defense issues. You bring in Juan Thornhill to shore up the back end. You already have a group of 3 really good corners. Myles Garrett is already playing, he's playing at a defensive player of the year level. This defense has everything, and they're playing with swagger and confidence that I've only seen from like the most dominant defenses over the past 20 years. They've held opponents this season to a 25% success rate. To put that number into perspective, number 2 in the NFL is the Bills at 38.5%. And last year, the team that led the NFL was at 39.5%. Their opponents have had 39 drives. One has gotten into the red zone. And it was on a 4th and 4 miraculous catch. And the team that got there didn't even score because Myles Garrett sacked Ryan Tannehill and time ran out in the half. So this defense is playing at another level. I'm a Ravens fan, so it pains me to do this, but I faded the Ravens last week. Happy to do it again here. I don't think the market's probably there's so many injuries. Like I didn't understand that line last week. Even if they get some offensive linemen back, they might not be fully healthy, but they have injuries at wide receiver. They have injuries at running back, injuries in the secondary. Their pass rush isn't there anymore after Ajabu and Owe went down. Like you're talking 7-8 key starters missing from the team. Lamar Jackson still learning this new offense. Because of that, when he's under pressure, he's still trying to figure out how this works. He's ranked 32nd out of 34 quarterbacks under pressure in quarterback rating, and he should be under pressure a lot here. So I'm going to trust the Browns defense. And then Deshaun Watson finally had a game where last week where you said, oh, wow, that's like who Deshaun Watson used to look like. And that was attacking a vulnerable Tennessee secondary downfield. Because of that, I have more confidence that he'll be able to attack downfield against this Ravens secondary that's, missing its top corner. It has injury at safety, slot corner, just depth pieces are missing. So, yeah, I think the Browns get this done.
Yeah, I agree with you. And for most, I was not very high on the Browns this season. I was high on the AFC North. I did pick them as the Super Bowl winning division, but there were so many question marks around Deshaun Watson, and he really didn't play well for the first couple weeks. But to your point, this defense is the best defense, in the NFL, at least through the first 3 weeks. 2 out of 3 games, they held their opponents to just a field goal. And one of the stats, because you listed out a lot of them, were great. They've only allowed 21 first downs. That's it. Just 21 first downs through 3 whole weeks, which is just honestly amazing. 1 offensive touchdown, as you said, fewest yards in the league, whether it's passing, whether it's rushing. And you look at Lamar Jackson, who's coming off of his 13th career 100-yard rushing game. But what did Cleveland do to Derrick Henry? I mean, he could get nothing done. 20 yards, 11 carries, 20 yards for Derrick Henry. And that's a guy who can always get open and is good for at least one explosive play. And he got absolutely nothing done. Like you said, Ravens are so banged up here. And I do think that I would lean towards the under in this game because I do think the Ravens defense is pretty good as well. We did see Deshaun Watson look better, but I need to see him do that a couple more times. But yeah, give me the Browns in a field goal, or you got it at 2.5, which is even better. Now looking at this Bills game, at first, I was like all over Miami. I was like, nobody can beat Miami. The Bills look like crap in their first game. And then I was reading on Action Network, 78% of retail is on Miami money line. By contrast, only 35% of bettors are backing the Bills against a spread. 71% of total money, however, is on the Bills. So that obviously tells you what the sharps are doing here. And then I started looking at, the head-to-head matchups, and I saw that Allen is 9-2 all time versus Miami. I mean, the Bills just beat the Dolphins. I do think it's kind of scary when you look at, and maybe the public is buying too much into, and you can speak more to this, on Miami just dropping 70 points. And it's not that this Miami offense isn't spectacular, but the Broncos defense was spectacularly bad. I mean, when Mike White can go deep on you like that and get a touchdown when you're down by so much, I think in the second half, they just gave up as far as I can tell. But when you look at Buffalo at home, they're dominant, 25-6 record at home, 10-1 in divisional opponents within that same span of time, which was 2020. I think you just got to beware of this massive scoring game, because since the merger, teams that score 60 plus points in a game are 1-5 in their next game. So I flipped. I'm on the Bills, and you are too.
Yeah. And if you go back, look, in the NFL, it's you don't ever want to overreact, and that's what a lot of people do. It's a week-to-week league.
Yeah.
But, if you go back 30 seasons, teams that have won by 35 or more points, that's a blowout. You look really good, are just 38% against the spread the next week. And that speaks to, hey, look, the market might have overreacted to what we just saw. And here, the look-at line was Bills -3.5. Now, -2.5, -3.
Yeah.
So that's where that potential overreaction comes in. And when, look, everyone's talking about Miami. Well, what has Buffalo done the past weeks? They beat their opponents by a combined score of 75-13. This offense is clicking on at just all cylinders, and it's firing. The offensive line has looked great the past 2 weeks, which was really the biggest question coming into the season. And that was against a really good Washington front. And you said it, Miami, look, their offense is awesome. McDaniel's awesome. And they did that last week. They scored 70 points without their star left tackle and Jalen Waddle, which is just insane. But, it was the Broncos, and the Chargers have also been horrendous this year. And they put up 34 in them. Yeah. 2 of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, even Sam Howell put up 32 points in 3 quarters against this Denver defense, basically by just throwing 10 screens. So, and this is a Sam Howell that got completely blanked, sacked 9 times against Buffalo, who is able to generate pressure without blitzing. That's key. You can't really blitz this Miami offense, get the ball out so quick. You got to get natural pressure, which Buffalo is able to do. And Tua has not had much success against Buffalo. 59 quarterback rating, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions in 3 starts. So what this comes down to is, look, both teams have elite offenses with really good quarterbacks playing really well, but only one of these teams has a really good defense.
Yeah.
And that's Buffalo, and they're playing at home. So look, New England slowed down Miami enough to win that game.
Yep.
So I'm sure McDermott's going to mirror some of those things, 3 high safety looks, and they have a lot of talent on that defense. But if New England had an offense, a much better offense like Buffalo, they could have won that game. And also the special teams, Miami special teams have been a mess. Buffalo is one of the best special teams units in the NFL. So that could end up deciding what's good, probably going to be a really close, fun, competitive game. But I'll trust the Bills at home with their, 2 elite offenses, but I got the home team with the much better defense, the much better special teams. But can't wait to watch this one. But I think the Bills will decide after what Miami did last week.
Yeah, I think if the NFL could flex a game in week 4, this one would be flexed into prime time.
Instead, we have to watch Zach Wilson. So
I feel like it's almost like having to watch Russell Wilson in every primetime game last year. Now we've got Zach Wilson because we thought the whole Zach Wilson thing. Let's just get into that for 1 second. This is a guy that does not want to play. That's what I think. He does not want to play. He thought he was going to get this year to take a back seat, learn from Rodgers, have the heat taken off of him, and then, maybe go somewhere else. He did not want to play. He does not want to be in this position.
Yeah, and he just has no confidence in either out there. Yeah. I mean, 4th and 10 last week. I think he threw for 80 total yards in the game, which is just pathetic. But 4th and 10, game on the line, he threw a 1-yard check down to a covered back who just got tackled, and that was and they ended up getting another Hail Mary chance. But like, what are you doing? It's 4th and 10, and he's just checking down. Yeah. He's just it's bad. He's incapable of creating offense. He's going to end up, if they stick with him, which I don't think they can, it's going to end up just splintering the locker room because the defense hasn't been as good as a lot of people thought, and as they said they were going to be historically great. They haven't really stepped up, but eventually they're going to say, look, I'm tired of this, and then everything is just going to go up in flames quick. But yeah, he's just not the guy, and unfortunately, that was their backup plan. They pretty much put all their eggs in one basket. And sadly, you get that freak injury right away, and their season pretty much went down the tubes. But Zach Wilson's not the guy. I refuse to bet money on him.
He doesn't even want to be the guy. That's the craziest thing. All right, let's look at some totals. You're looking at this Colts over. Anthony Richardson, I believe, is going to be back this week, right?
Yep. One thing I do want to see, I actually would prefer if Minshew started for this over,
more of an up-tempo game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's would actually throw it downfield. The weird thing is Richardson is everything. He's played pretty well, but everything is short. He doesn't have a pass that's over 20 air yards this year, so I want to see him throw it more downfield here. But he's played pretty well. This Rams defense is still vulnerable on the back end. You have Aaron Donald, but who's insane. But you have a really good Colts offensive line getting their center back this week, and the Colts secondary is bad, and Stafford is playing so well. Yes. Last week they should have had so many. They just had failures in the red zone, and they were going up against tough environment Bengals team playing for their season, where the defensive line played out of their minds. So in a fast track here, I think the way Stafford is playing with the receivers, the young receivers who have stepped up. I mean, people thought that this offense, Puka's been amazing. People thought that this offense, as soon as Kupp goes down, it's lights out for this team. Yeah, so did I. And the defense has been a little better than I thought as well, but I still think this should get into the high 40s, low 50s. I think there'll definitely be some points here. I think Stafford and that offense are going to score. I actually like them to win the game, and then which would force the Colts to play more from behind. Richardson going to throw more downfield. I like this over.
I'll ride with you on that one. I also think, Matt Stafford to throw an interception is always one of my favorite bets to make, no matter how juiced it is. Puka, I got caught up on Puka. I mean, Puka got over on his receiving yards. I thought maybe he'd get the first touchdown. I still can't believe that he doesn't have a touchdown. I mean, for everything it's crazy. And so I almost want to just bet an anytime touchdown every week. Because this is the week. It's got to be this week for him. I'm looking at the 49ers, and I'm taking them over their team total. It's a little scary because it's high this week at 29.5. I'm a huge 49ers fan, but this has been my go-to bet for them, is just taking them over.
They get the 30. They get the 30 every week with Purdy.
30 for Purdy. Exactly. 30 for Purdy. And if you look at, the Cardinals team, yeah, Dallas kind of laid a stinker there. But this Cardinals team is still just like a little bit suspect. And so until the Niners start scoring under 30, like I'm just hammering their team total every single week. I don't really think that the Cardinals are going to be able to stop this offense when you've got people like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. I'm looking at some George Kittle prop bets here. I think it's going to be a good game for the Niners. And I feel like until the books start putting this over 30, I'm just going to keep hammering it.
Yeah, that used to happen with the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs
Yes.
with Mahomes would be like the lines were, the team totals were 27.5, then 28, then 28.5, because they were just scoring 30 plus every game. And then eventually they hit 30. But yeah, this 49ers team, the only thing I would be worried about, and look, the Cardinals defense, they're playing hard, but it's still a really bad defense. So if you look at the talent level and who's on this defense, it's bad. I think what's happened with the Cardinals, I'll give a lot of credit to Jonathan Gannon. He's got them playing hard.
Yep.
Is that a lot of these teams have just come in and I think completely overlooked the Cardinals, right? They're just like, this team's terrible. You saw it with the Giants, but the Giants offense was able to come back from down 28 nothing. So I think that they just came into that game like, oh, we're not taking this too serious. And I think that's what happened to Dallas. Yeah. But now that, this is a division game, now that the Cardinals beat the Cowboys, I think the 49ers will be on alert here. The only thing I would worry about is if it's like, if the defense just completely shuts down the Cardinals and it's like 27-0. Right. And then they just go into a shell. Yeah. But betting the 49ers over 29.5 and against a bad defense, I'll never argue with you on that.
Yeah, well, and to your point too, the defense, under Wilkes has been a little bit different. And I feel like the first half of games, like the Rams game was giving me, a heart attack, and even a little bit in the Giants, their first couple drives but I feel like they've done a good job of making adjustments in the second half. And, the Cardinals were able to run all over the Dallas defense, which was surprising. So we'll have to figure that one out. But yeah, okay, good. Same side there. Looking at another total, what do you like?
One that you mentioned already, but the Cleveland Baltimore under.
Yeah.
Ravens defense is still playing decent. Browns defense is on another level. I just don't see how this Ravens offense is going to have too much success with their injuries. Division game, outdoors. This one will be low scoring, hard fought, your classic AFC North game. I think the Cleveland defense is the tone setter in this game, and points are going to be at a premium. So yeah, I like the under there, as you mentioned earlier.
All right, I'm looking at this Vikings and Panthers games. It's kind of ugly, but I'm going to take the over 45.5. We know the Vikings can't win a game. It's been hilarious to see them regress to the complete opposite side and lose every game by a single score. But they can, run up the scoreboard. You got Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins having incredible games, and somehow they're still losing. They were able to outcharger the Chargers, which is very difficult to do. They lead the league in turnovers, right? They got to clean that kind of stuff up. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why they're still winless. And the Vikings didn't hit their over last week against the Chargers. That line, I believe, was like 9.5 points higher than this week's is. The Panthers offense, I think, looks more efficient with Andy Dalton than they did with their young quarterback, and their offense did put up 27 against the Seahawks. So I kind of think that this game can still go over. 45 seems low for any Vikings game.
Yeah, we're definitely on the same page here today. This was my favorite total. I love this, but I'm afraid that Bryce Young is going to play. So if he does, then
they're not scoring any points.
Yeah, he doesn't look great, and they've been playing so much slower. They played so much faster last week. Yeah. And by the way, they should probably even scored more points. They had, I think, 9 false start penalties because of the Seattle crowd, which obviously won't be an issue at home here. But Dalton was operating that offense with speed and confidence, and Young they were going so slow, and he just doesn't look great back there. And so I'm fearful that play. Even if he does play, I still kind of like this. Yeah. And then, but I also worry about like him. He's going up against the Vikings defense is bad. It just there's not a lot of talent there.
No,
but they do have a really good coordinator, Brian Flores, who can draw up some exotic looks, confuse young quarterbacks, which would scare me against Young more so than Dalton. But this Vikings team should score. Panthers have a lot of injuries on their defense, and their defense at the end of the day isn't very good. Vikings games are generally wild. So I loved this over. If you could guarantee that it was Dalton versus Cousins, this has shootout written all over it. But the young wild card scares me off a bit, but I still think it's over or nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to see what the Vikings team total is, because maybe that's just the way to go. 25.5.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go, depending on who the quarterback is. All right, let's talk some prop bets. Props that I like are not even on the board right now, or at least they weren't when I was looking at them this morning. But I love George Kittle in this matchup with the Cardinals. So I would take him over, depending on what his receiving yards are. In reason, I kind of like taking him over on his receiving yards, and also for an anytime touchdown. He's starting to heat up. He's my favorite player. I will go ahead and say that, but he is coming off his best game of the season. 7 of 9. He caught 7 of 9 targets, 90 yards against the Giants. Still no touchdown, which is wild. But I do expect more of that this week. The Cardinals defense has just given up, the 3rd most receiving yards to tight ends this season. And they've allowed every single tight end that they have faced to go over on their receiving yards prop. And if you look at last season, Kittle did have 2 scores in each of the games versus the Cardinals. Like you said, this is not, because it's a divisional matchup, it's not a game that the 49ers are going to overlook. So I will look to get George Kittle involved. I don't know what the numbers are yet, but I'm going to look at his receiving yards, and I like him for a touchdown.
I think it's a good matchup, good spot. I'll throw out Desmond Ridder over interceptions.
Yeah.
I think I saw like over half plus money. He's not playing well at all. And they're going over to London this week, and the Jags have been not good to start the year. But the one thing that they've done well, and they did well last year, is they can defend the run. I think they're top 2 in EPA per run and success rate against the run. This is their defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles' disciple. Todd Bowles' defense is always great against the run by design, and that's all Atlanta wants to do. Atlanta just wants to run, and then just baby Ridder. But I don't think they're going to be able to run here. I also think Jacksonville's offense is going to rebound, which means they're going to be playing from ahead. They're going to force Ridder to throw a lot more than Atlanta's comfortable with, and I think that's going to lead to mistakes.
I love that. I love interception props. Also, I'm going to look at Myles Garrett, I think, in some defensive props in that Browns game. 4.5 sacks this season. Last week, he had 5 quarterback hits, 3.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. And Tennessee towards the end there, it was kind of hilarious. They started basically double teaming him. There was 2 guys just following him around all the time. By that point, it was too late. There was nothing that you could do to stop it. But I did read a stat today that said Garrett had an average get-off time of 0.62 seconds on 6 pressures in that first half. 0.75 is what's considered elite. So he's just operating at an unbelievable level. He's got 17 solo tackles, 8 assists, and 6 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries in 10 games versus the Ravens in his career. Big divisional matchup here. And he has recorded at least 1 sack in like 50% I think actually in the last 4 games versus the Ravens. So I don't know if I'll take him like on total tackles or on sacks, but I'm definitely going to look into some Myles Garrett props, because I think the big dog keeps eating.
Yeah, that was I bet the Browns last week, so I was watching that game closely. It was one of the most dominant defensive performances from a D-end I've ever seen. They're moving him all over the field too, and he was
can't stop him.
There was the Titans at the end of that game, the fourth quarter, game out of hand. Usually, like, you're still trying to work on offense, and Vrabel was just on the sidelines nodding his head like, let's just run and punt it and get the hell out of here. Which is
not a Vrabel thing to do. I feel like Vrabel is a dog, so if he's given up like that, it's bad.
Yeah, he was basically just like, if we try anything, my quarterback's going to end up in the hospital. But yeah, along those lines, I as far as a Ravens bet, I would look at Lamar over rushing yards just because of what you said. Yeah. I think it's going to be some more designed runs because of the injuries at receiver and running back this week, and he's going to be running for his life. With Garrett, that defensive line, like, their offense is going to have to be him scrambling, getting away, and just running for first downs, taking what he can get. And I think you'll see more designed runs here in a division matchup. So yeah, I think Lamar to get to 50 plus yards is a good
He's
bet
had
in this
over
matchup.
100, last week. So to your point, he will be literally running
Yep.
for his life. And the offense is kind of up to him at this point. All right, Stuckey, your Mox Lock, your number one bet that you're absolutely taking to the window this weekend is what?
We'll go back to this game. I feel like I've talked about this game for half the time, but I'm going to go with the Browns.
Yeah.
Defense is too good, too many injuries for the Ravens. So yeah, I'm fading my own team for Mox Locks.
Hey, you got to do it sometime to earn money. I'm like I said, I'm doing this every week until it happens. Kittle for an anytime touchdown plus 170. If not this weekend, then when really want him to get into the end zone. So that will be that. Stuckey, I know you've got a lot.
And 30 for Purdy.
And 30 for Purdy. Yes, exactly. Let me get your thoughts before I let you go on Brock Purdy, because I feel like he's very controversial. I'm obviously biased against this, but yes, he has all of these great weapons. You have Christian McCaffrey, you've got George Kittle, you've got Deebo Samuel. Yes, you've got Juszczyk. But it's not like every other good quarterback in this league doesn't have a bunch of weapons around them and a good defense and a good coach. Maybe not necessarily as good as what people perceive the 49ers to have. But do you think that Purdy deserves a little respect, or do you think he's a product of the system?
Yeah, no, I love Purdy. I was the president of the Brocktober fan club when he was at Iowa State. He covered and won every game in October, and we loved him at Iowa State. It's shocking that they didn't win more there. They had Breece Hall, they had really good tight ends, a really good defense. Kind of an indictment on that coaching staff. But I love Purdy. You could just see his decision making.
Yeah.
He's confident. It's everything that you watch Zach Wilson. It's not.
Opposite.
And look, Jimmy G was able to win a ton of games there, but he was the definition of the system quarterback, right? You put him, he's not going to lose you games. He can make your throws in the play action game, but the offense has such a higher ceiling now with Purdy for two reasons. One, he's a little more mobile.
Yep.
So Jimmy G, when he's under pressure, everything falls apart.
Zero pocket awareness too.
Yeah. That's not the case with Purdy. A quick stat here: Garoppolo over his final two seasons with San Francisco, similar personnel coaching. When he was under pressure, 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 12% explosive pass rate. Purdy, in his career so far in San Fran, 7 touchdowns when under pressure, 1 interception, 17% explosive pass rate.
Come on.
It's a way better, and that's what it comes down to. That's the skill of the quarterback, his pocket awareness, his mobility. So you're when Jimmy G was with the 49ers, the ceiling wasn't nearly as high as it is now, because Purdy has some of the skills that he didn't. So yeah, I'm all for give Purdy more respect.
I love that. And, the Giants game, they blitzed the hell out of him. I think it was like 98% of his dropbacks. And he definitely had the worst game of his career. But like you said, still 30 for Purdy. You still got the Yak brothers. They can make up that stuff. And, he's not turning the ball over all the time. He still has good ball protection. So good. I'm glad that you agree. But Stuckey, you've got a lot going on with Action Network. Let the people know, where to find you and what some shows and everything that you're doing.
Yeah, Action Network app. You can find me there. Stuckey2. Same with X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days. Then podcasts, Action Network podcast for NFL, Big Bets on Campus for college. But if you just follow me on Twitter or X at Stuckey2, I'll tweet out everything that I'm doing.
Perfect. Stuckey, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a busy man, but we always appreciate you coming on. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. And once again, online sports betting is officially live in Kentucky as of 6 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. If you are in Kentucky, download the Caesars Sportsbook app and place your first bet today. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time. Good luck on your bets, and thank you again to Stuckey.